Okay, well, let's get it started here. All right, welcome back, universe, to Off the Rails with Tom and Mark, episode 58, our first ever 58th episode.
Coming to you from Coldwell Banker Home Sale Realty Studios here in beautiful Grafton, Wisconsin.
And if you're looking to buy or sell a house or a career in real estate, email Roy at cbhsr.com, or give Roy a call, 414-235-0763. Roy and his whole crew of hundreds of people.
His empire.
Roy knows how to do real estate. He probably sold the first house ever built.
Call him any time of the day. He likes 3 a.m. Call him at 3 a.m. in the morning.
And we are here with an awesome guest, Charlie Ross. Thank you very much for coming. The one-man Star Wars show. We got it up there. I don't know if you can see it, but you are coming in via Skype. Thanks for giving us some time today.
Thanks for letting me have some time.
Hey, thank you very much. All right. So today we're here. We're going to be talking. It's finally an episode that I get to nerd out on Star Wars, and it wasn't my fault.
He's such a poser.
Oh, wow.
So you are performing tonight. So are there still tickets, and where can we find you?
Well, I'll be at the Marcus Center for the Performing Arts in Milwaukee, so I think it's like marcus.org or something.
Okay.
And there might be tickets left. I don't actually know. It's just one show, one performance tonight.
At 7:30.
Last time I was here was like 2012.
Okay.
So, they brought me back, so it must have done well, because why would they bring me back otherwise?
Yeah, you did good. So you're going to be here at the Marcus, and then you're going back up to your home in Canada,
right.
and then you're coming to Appleton.
That's right. Well, I'll be doing that later, and mostly going to be in Charlotte, North Carolina, the week afterwards.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy. I haven't been to Charlotte in a long time, so.
All right.
Where in Appleton? Where are you going to be?
I don't actually know. I don't know that answer offhand.
It is November 25th, though. I have that at least written down. November 25th in Appleton. And it's because if you guys can't see him today, you can check out the One Man Star Wars show in Appleton on the 25th.
Is that Black Friday?
I believe that's a Saturday. Yeah, that is Saturday. Okay.
I think you're right.
So.
I don't have the. I'm sorry, I was just looking to see if I could see what the theater was, and I can't still. So,
Okay.
I can look it up online and find out.
Do you have a website that people can go to and find this?
Yes.
OneManStarWars.com.
There we go.
There we go.
I like it.
Excellent. So this show is Mark's favorite movie of all time is Evil Dead. So you have the same producer as the producer of Evil Dead.
Oh, cool. I did not know that.
It's true. It's true. In fact, I know the guys that have done the Evil Dead for Yonks, and they sort of did that musical, The Evil Dead. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I'm familiar with it. I never saw it.
Yeah, well, it's super cool. Like it's not so much of a musical as that in the front row you have to have wear like garbage bags or
like a Gallagher show,
Slickers, because there's so much blood. And I mean, I've done my show like after Evil Dead, the musical's been playing. And I kid you not, like I did 3 weeks, and after 3 weeks, we were still finding fake dried blood everywhere, like just a mess. I mean, I'm sure if you went through with a swab, you'd find sweat from my show, but certainly no blood that I'm aware of.
Yeah, you have a high energy show.
It is. I mean, it's crazy because I started doing this show back in 2001. So you can do a little bit of the arithmetic. I mean, I feel like a crippled old man by comparison. Because I was relatively young when I first started doing it, like 27 years old. Okay. But just been able to do the show for so long.
What made you decide to try doing a one-man show?
Well, so I'm from Canada, and I had the ridiculous thought of being an actor for a living. But, trying to be an actor in Canada, I've always said it's sort of like trying to climb up the Rocky Mountains with your lips. It's just not going to happen, and it's not going to be pretty if you make it. So, yeah, I just realized that I couldn't really sustain much of a living as an actor in Canada, without doing TV or film. So you live in a big city like Toronto or Vancouver, or if you're like me, you kind of live in the city you want to live in, but you have to have your own gig, your own thing. So I tried doing a bunch of my own material, and I kind of harped back to a period of time when I was watching a lot of Star Wars, and I thought, there's something. I know I can remember Star Wars as much as some other people of our ilk, can remember it. And surely there would be a group of people out there that would be able to follow a solo Star Wars show. Just me on stage, sort of, on the inside joke with everybody. Because I'm not making fun of the movies. It's sort of like poking fun, but it's an homage to it.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if it would work. I could reason it out in my head, but when I tried it for the first time, it was just A New Hope. And I tried it sort of at a comedy night that was being done. And it killed. It went so well. And it was a really mixed group of people, too, which was nice. So it just seemed like the first reaction I had to it was enough of I guess a bit of a prod that maybe it could be bigger and be the whole original trilogy. What I was most familiar with. And I just started to tour it. And it's not hard to sell Star Wars.
No.
Yeah.
It's hard to get Star Wars or Lucasfilm on your side.
That was my next question. I was going to say, when you got your first paycheck, was George Lucas standing by your mailbox like, hey, buddy, notice you're making some money off my stuff?
Well, the weird thing is I first started doing it in something called the Fringe. So the Fringe is, they're like, they vary in their quality. You can get top-notch shows right next to crap shows. But it's a way for people to produce a show and then tour it. Because these festivals, they're in Scotland and then they're all across the States.
I've got a apartment in Edinburgh. Yeah.
So the first time I ever toured the Star Wars show for about $4,500, that was sort of my entrance fees into these festivals. I was able to do it was Orlando, Charleston, South Carolina, and then I went across Canada for Montreal, Toronto, Winnipeg, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Edmonton, Alberta, and then Victoria and Vancouver, British Columbia. So that was about 8 months of touring for only $4,500. That's really all I had to make back.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I mean, imagine having no resources, but being able to get reviews and exposure to the world in general. And in a way that, like, you're not making a ton of money. You're just making a little bit of money. And when Lucasfilm found out about me, it wasn't when I was doing the Fringe festivals. I got asked to go and do my show in Chicago at a little theater called The Noble Fool. But for some reason, because it was Star Wars, it was getting a lot of media hits. Like, and at the time, it was still print media that was kind of ruling and radio. So I got some really, really good media hits, and then I got contacted by Lucasfilm, and they weren't adversarial at all because they'd read such good things about it. Okay. They just said, what's going on? Can you send us a copy of the show? I was talking to Steve Sansweet, from
I do know, not personally.
There you go.
But.
Well, anyway, it was great to sort of have the first contact be as positive as it was, and the thing was that with them doing conventions, they were looking for live shows or live presentations to include in the convention. So I kind of fit it perfectly. So I was invited to go down to do Comic-Con in San Diego. This is like in 2004. They were doing the Fan Film Awards, like these little short fan films, Star Wars fan films. I was hosting the award ceremony. And then at the end of the ceremony, Steve said, just go into your show. Not be any introduction. Just start doing your show.
Start doing it.
And it was because it was sort of like it was almost like a stunt, really.
Yeah.
And I was wearing a suit, and I don't wear a suit when I'm doing the show. I wear a pair of coveralls.
Yeah, Michael Myers coveralls.
Right, exactly right. Super durable. Takes the blood pretty well. So, or at least the sweat. Anyway, I just broke into the show and started doing it, and it took a couple, I don't know, like maybe 30 seconds for the audience to figure out what the hell was going on. But when they did, it was like I had him in the palm of my hand.
Awesome.
And it was 4,000 people that were there, right? So I'm like, oh man, biggest house I'd ever done before that was like 250 people. So suddenly having it be 4,000 people and kind of preaching to the converted, it was like, okay, this will work. So I went to Celebration 3. And, I mean, they've been great. Even with the conversion over to Disney, they've been great. Lots of people have there's like a large turnover sort of at Lucasfilm and at Disney too, I think. But it's like there's somehow a core understanding or feeling and a history of working with Lucasfilm and now with Disney that I kind of have that to rely upon.
Awesome.
Which is good. Yeah.
So do you still do a lot of conventions now?
Well, conventions are so different now, man. It's like they've actually started looking in at themselves. Conventions aren't so much about, I feel like, conventions aren't just about the intellectual properties that you're buying into. It's a lot of cosplay. So it's almost self-referential, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't even know what the people that go to conventions, what are they looking for? Are they looking for a show like this?
I go to C2E2 in Chicago every year, and I would attend a show like yours if I saw it on the program.
Well, here's the thing. It used to be, and I'm not harping on like it used to be better, but
Back in my day.
when I would come in, they would pay me a flat fee, you know, and I wouldn't have to pay for my flight or accommodation, and I didn't really even care how much it was. And now, if people do that, if they pay like the convention, if they pay you a flat fee and cover your overhead, like your flight and accommodation, they then will charge a hard ticket price within the convention. So, and that's just a necessity. They got to make their money back, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I've always thought, okay, I buy my way into the convention, and then I'm being told to buy another ticket to an event. What I liked was that I was just part of the festival, part of the program. And I don't know I'm not sure if all conventions can actually sustain that. You know,
Okay.
And I don't know. I don't actually have the answer because it feels like there's not one central convention body you can kind of talk to. It's all a lot of conventions all over the place. So I've never done Dragon Con, and it seems like that is kind of a one where this might work. But I wouldn't be able to sell a ticket to it. I would have to just sort of have it be there and available. And I'm not sure, you know, if Dragon Con's listening, but I mean,
Yeah.
it would be cool to do it. And I think for me to continue to do conventions, I have to really, really pare down any kind of expectation of attendance or anything. If they're going to sell a ticket, that is.
Okay.
Because, you know, you can get like 800 people into your show, and they've all bought a ticket, and that's great. But when you're in a 2,000-seat venue, you think, well, if it was free, it would be full. But then the con would be out however much money they've given me. So maybe there's a better way to make it work and say, like, how about I just come do the show, and you pay for my flight and accommodation, and we'll call it square. Because I'm pretty sure I'd get lots of engagements to go do the show then.
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, you would.
Yeah.
Is there a next step to this? Like you're doing theaters across the country. Is there anything that you vision like your next goal in this procedure, or just continue doing what you're doing?
I don't know. It's strange because I mean, if I list off some of the things that the show has been able to do, it's actually quite astounding that a little show like this. I did the show off Broadway in New York for 6 months, and I got my off Broadway sort of laurels because if you do the show for long enough weeks, you are officially an off Broadway show. That you kind of reach that sort of point. So I'm an off Broadway show, and I did the show in New York, and let's see, I think I've done about close to 5,000 shows on 4 different continents. So,
wow.
Like I've done the Sydney Opera House, done the West End of London. I've toured all around the UK, the US. I mean, I think I've done 42 states so far.
Wow.
You know, which I thought was all right for like a little show like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. I've gone to Asia to do the show, and I don't know where to go to with it. To be honest.
So is the show mostly the original trilogy?
It's all.
It's all the
Okay. Have you thought about expanding it to anything else Star Wars?
Well, he has other shows like Lord of the Rings and
Yeah,
Pride and
I got Lord of the
Prejudice.
Rings, One Man Batman, which is the Dark Knight trilogy. with
Nice.
Christopher Nolan.
That would be
I just
awesome. Yeah.
I had to choose one to do. I could, because it could be just all Batman, but then
Yeah.
it's like, well, how do you pare it down?
Yeah.
Yeah. And last night I was doing One Man's Stranger Things.
Okay.
Which is and that's a crazy thing to do because it's more like a parody than it is an homage because you have so much material that you're trying to pare down
Yeah.
into one thing. Like Lord of the Rings was all about getting the voices right, like I will leave you on the western borders of the forest. Like you want to get the voice right.
Yeah.
Whereas like with Stranger Things, it's not really other than like the
Yeah.
There's no really distinct voices that you're trying to
A lot of
get.
kids, yeah.
A lot of kids, yeah, and people, normal people,
Well, let's get a little Paul Reiser in season 2.
Oh, I do. Paul Reiser. Yeah, it's like, hey, I'm Dr. Paul Reiser. I play Dr. Nice Guy. Oh, maybe not. It is a mystery. Yeah, I mean,
I was just going to ask how long it takes to get those voices down because
Yeah.
the clips I watched, it was pretty impressive. It was
You're
pretty
like the
good.
Michael Winslow of one-act plays, just with all the...
I met Michael Winslow,
Yeah.
believe it or not, at Edinburgh like a couple of years ago, and he gave me his card.
Yeah.
And he was there doing a sound effects show, and I thought, is this what happens? Like, you might become like sort of a bit of a neat sort of a dancing monkey for a while, and you do a bunch of police academies and stuff, and then you're doing theater shows. I mean, Michael Winslow was so giving, such a nice guy. And
Super
I
nice
remember
guy,
being
yeah.
a kid. When I was a kid, I remember watching what he did and just thinking, that is the best thing I have ever seen. A person that just does sound effects, and he's just virtuosic, and it didn't have to be perfect. It was just his version.
Mhm.
And you listen to people. At least I did. I listened to people sort of talking about the show he was doing, and they're just sort of being these sort of couch critics about stuff. And I mean, I guess that's what critics often are, on the couch. But but I just thought. I mean, I really shouldn't swear, so I won't. But I just thought, like, what the hell do you know? Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Do you know about putting together anything? And I felt like I really came to his defense, but I didn't engage the people in any conversation. I just thought, he probably didn't start off his career with the intention of being the sound effects guy.
Yeah.
He just rolled with what came, because you so rarely have any control over what might happen in your career.
Oh, yeah.
And he's also funny, too. Like, he's
Yeah.
legitimately funny. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. It's hard because we're definitely in an environment where people are quicker to make fun of things now than to actually love something in spite of the things you don't like about it. People get really polarized really quickly about stuff.
Yeah.
So the long answer to like, will I incorporate the new films into what I do? I would love to. But I feel like even in myself, I feel quite polarized about certain aspects of the new films, and not just like, I don't mean just the new films here, but like the prequels and stuff. And how do you sort of temper the things that you don't like versus the things that you really do like? Because I don't want to sit there and make fun of something, because I genuinely love all things Star Wars.
Yeah.
Everything, even the stuff that I do not like.
Jar Jar Binks.
So, yeah.
It's just so easy. It's
Yeah.
just so easy.
Yeah.
Were you a big fan of the
it's like-
expanded universe before Disney bought it and threw all that out? Like all the
Did
books?
I ever like reading the books and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the ones I like the most are like the Han Solo, the books, the Lando books. I like the Rogue Squadron, and the I read like the Tales from Jabba's Palace and the Tales from Mos Eisley, and just those are the things that tickled me the most, I guess. And it was sort of sad to see how things can be kind of like just sort of
Whitewash. Or yeah, just erased. Yeah.
And yet, there was a very artful thing they did when they rebooted Star Trek, which is that they went through a black hole and suddenly everything could be whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
And if you look at the opening of, I thought it was pretty damn artful, without it being completely obvious. But in the opening of The Force Awakens, you are on this planet that is just covered in sand, and all the toys that you remember from your childhood are all half buried in the sand of the sandbox. And you see these things just right there, like, oh, it's like you're suddenly you have a Star Destroyer where you could climb inside of it and pick it apart. Like, how awesome would that be?
Mm-hmm.
It didn't in any way say that we don't accept and love what you love, but this stuff is over.
Yeah.
This stuff
yeah.
It's crap in the sand. And it's not that it's garbage, but it's no longer being used. Let's move on. And it was great. I mean, you had Luke, you had Leia, you had Han, you had Chewbacca, and then they all die, you know.
Yeah.
But at least they're doing something with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think they're, you know, Disney's sort of looking at it, if I can say that Disney's some kind of a mind, but are you going to continue to make the stories of Han Solo as he gets older? Because you might, but he'll be doing a lot more armchair commanding and not so much running around and being Han Solo.
Yeah.
You know, so what do you do with it? And how the audience changed? What is the Force? What does it mean to love Star Wars? I mean, it's huge, huge questions. And if you look at when J.J. Abrams made Lost, he never really answered many of these questions.
Yes.
He just brought up a lot of points that never got answered.
Yeah.
And I think in some ways the new films bring up a lot of points. And I don't believe they're ever going to truly answer them. They just brought them up. So how is it that people can be so polarized about the new offerings? When we were kids, I just wasn't discerning. I just loved it.
Yeah, I thought about that a lot, and about your show, and about why everybody's so, towards the new ones. And I think it has to do with everybody loved it, and then they remastered them and re-released them in like 1997.
Oh, yeah.
And I know a lot of my friends went to the theaters, and that brought a younger generation to Star Wars. And then when you're a kid that was my age at the time, there's not a lot that can connect you with the older generation, because you always want to rebel against them and not like the things. But Star Wars seemed to be something that brought two generations together when they're always like magnets pushing each other apart. So now you got generations of people sharing this experience, and then they bring something new, and you both can make fun of it together.
I just feel like
We can be united in your hatred.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean, Hollywood has been rehashing stuff for many decades now, and it's like Star Wars back then was something new, something original, something mind-blowing.
Well, it did harken back to Flash Gordon and a lot of that kind of stuff.
Ghostbusters was mind-blowing. It was a comedy like about ghosts and stuff, and it was mind-blowing. It was something new. Now we got to rehash it with an all-female cast, and like why touch it? Why do it?
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with an all-female cast, but do something else, something original. Yeah.
The old movie way of making things with studios is not the way they make things anymore, though, right? I mean, it's like there's that book. It's a piece of nonfiction called "Life Moves Pretty Fast," and it's just talking about how, like, and the woman that writes it, like, she admits her favorite movie of all time is Ghostbusters. It's her favorite film, and but she talks about she's just not good. She didn't go for the big ones. She didn't go for like Star Wars or like in the Star Trek films, because that's sort of there would be a whole book of itself. But as far as there being original offerings that now people can't seem to get past it in their head. It was like the late 70s and into the 80s. There were still studios making films, as opposed to it being just these sort of massive undertakings where there's so much money behind everything and so mathematical. It's really like it's just purely a business. And taking a risk, I mean, you take a risk. If you take a risk, then they'll distribute it, and then they will make things derivative of that risk that you took. You kind of have to break the new ground on your own, but you can't really expect to get the exposure you would get like with the old films that were made, because there's so much noise. There's so many big things that are going to sort of push you out of the theater. That you might get two screens that show your great show, but it's going to be completely overshadowed by whatever massive $250 million offering is out there. And things just seem like they're made in a test tube in a lab or something. I mean, that's without me actually knowing how things are actually created. I'm not there for every film, obviously, but it does feel like those fresh films, those fresh ideas. I mean, although they may have seemed fresh, I think those are also like part of people's career trajectories.
Yeah.
You'd have a director, you'd have a line producer, you'd have numerous producers, executive producers, actors, writers, everybody, contributing to something working. And you got to know that if there was say there was 100 films released in 1 year, I don't know how many films are released in a year, you might get 2 that are super cream of the crop, but it just feels like films like Ghostbusters wouldn't even stand a chance of being made
today
under any circumstances today.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, I mean, there was the movie The Player where they were talking about taking, it's Ghostbusters meets Police Academy. It's just sort of things that wouldn't necessarily mix together, but that was sort of them trying to make things make sense. And there's the elevator pitch. You have to make things super easy to understand because you've only got 3 minutes of my time, kid. Now wow me with your idea, and then we'll consider moving it further until it becomes completely homogenous and crappy by the end. Who could make a new thing today? I think only a writer has any chance, but they may not get published. They may not get published, but you can probably still, in your imagination and the little things that we do, still create and be free. It's just you can't expect to necessarily get famous or notorious with your work unless it sort of seems to follow a bunch of rules.
Yeah. I think it's a good way to look at how Hollywood has lost touch a little bit, because what they think you want is what they give you. So if you look at Anakin versus Obi-Wan in the new, or not the latest, but they had a 15-minute fight with lightsabers on Mustafar.
Yeah.
But if you see in the original, they barely even touch lightsabers, and which one was more powerful in a better scene?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
that's just, you lost touch in it. The first one was, you didn't need all that frosting on a cake.
It was story-based rather than in your face with special effects and whatnot. And that's why I think people gravitate towards the original Star Wars trilogy, because there was a story within it, and you feel like you got invested into that story, rather than, oh, that's pretty cool, shiny lights, but
yeah.
Well, but if you look at the visual aspect of the prequels, I mean, how visually just unfathomably beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, nothing that they've made that's been made since, that hasn't been sort of Star Wars or maybe Star Trek, looks that visually just mind-blowingly awesome. Nothing. So if nothing else, those films are a jewel to look at.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we see the occlusions that are in there, but it's still amazing. If you stand back from it, you're like, look at it.
Yeah, and if you took away the special effects, it's 2 guys sitting on a bucket instead. But in the film, they're flying through space,
Yeah. Well, but I almost wonder if there isn't a time where a person has to go so far in one direction for the industry or for people to say, like, okay, you've gone so far in one direction that the thing that we loved about the old films was that there was something gritty and real that could be touched, but the technology wasn't there. And it was sort of like, well, how far are we going to go into the technology? Have actors, but use almost 100% CGI sets, and I mean, I think some films have actually done it better, and that they actually told the story as well, or told a very even story. And I've heard that when they tried to edit together all the different storylines that were sort of developed in, say, like in episode 1, that trying to piece them together, they were like multiple films that needed to sort of have their tones intermingled, and there was never like a tone that was consistent throughout it.
Too many breaks in the action. There wasn't enough smoothness to the drama build up.
Yeah, I mean, when I remember watching the Red Letter Media sort of take apart,
Yeah.
of the prequels. And I mean, if you subtract the vitriol and that's sort of seeping through it, you can still see that this has clearly been made by a filmmaker or a film student, a person that understands the fundamentals of what they're talking about. And they did really say it perfectly, which is that the tone was so complex. And if you look at the tone of the very first movie of, A New Hope, it was a perfect trajectory, a perfect climax. There was like multiple little sort of things, but it was all going uphill to the moment when the Death Star explodes.
Mm-hmm.
And there's victory,
Yeah.
And then we move on. Like, you just want to go right back into that ride again. And they did it. They did it better, in some ways with Empire, because suddenly the story almost overshadowed any trajectory of action, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I think what you had with the prequels is that there was great scenes of action, like the pod races. That's crazy. Just look at how they pieced those things together. People made that story, storyboarded it in some form, and they created it. I mean, it was almost like watching a video game while you're in a video game, which eventually you could buy the video game.
Yeah.
But then you have moments of them talking about the politics of a breaking, system or series of systems together in the Senate. And that's like a totally different movie going on. I would happily sit down and watch that, but I don't think a kid would really want to watch it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was something for everybody, but not enough of everything for one group, let's say.
Okay.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, the 8-year-old kid doesn't want to hear about trade disputes.
Nobody does.
Nobody does.
No,
Well, it's like...
go
ahead.
You can say like one line about trade disputes and never go back to it.
It's like Star Wars has gone from the extremes of the original trilogy was a rogue filmmaker who made it all independently and financed a lot of it personally, so he did exactly what he wanted, and we got the prequels that were kind of weird. And now Star Wars is the exact opposite. It's the what do they call it? The story group or whatever. It's this big, broad group of people from Hollywood crafting this for maximum appeal. So it went from being the project of this eccentric movie maker calling all the shots to now a movie by committee.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it's sort of like me scolding the couch critic for, just over-rationalizing what something that Michael Winslow puts out on stage. I mean, we're not being that. I don't think we're being that ourselves. But without having some kind of input into what's being made, we're just sort of sidelined, sort of remembering how much we loved Star Wars, the original feeling that bridged us, that feeling towards our parents, like you were bringing up there, Tom.
Yeah.
And that experience it won't be recaptured again because it's lightning in a jar, right? It's just that moment that happened. And I realized this too, trying to make new shows. In fact, for me, the magic will always be one-man Star Wars because I didn't think it would work. And it did. In its own way, it has.
I haven't seen the whole show, but I've seen clips on YouTube, and it reminded me of the movies, and like, that's right, and like, I don't know if Netflix has ever contacted you in any way to do like a kind of a version of that on Netflix. I know like John Leguizamo has a one-man play coming out on it this month, and so I think that would be awesome just to get it out there and you make some money too.
Actually, in a perfect world, it wouldn't be about making money. It would actually be about having it finally done.
Yeah.
Because if it was broadcast, if it was taped and out there, I could just do that. I could walk away.
Yeah.
I could, because that would sort of, in some ways, put it on a shelf.
Okay.
I would just be one tiny little leaflet on the great shelf that is Star Wars.
Yeah.
But I would. That would be amazing. But I don't know how do you get in contact with Netflix?
Hey, Netflix, get in contact with Charlie Ross here. Let's do it.
I'm serious. I think I've got about 6 agents that work for me, and I remember asking the question of how do you get in touch with Netflix, and they were all like, I don't know. There's no like Netflix sort of mountain where the dark part of Netflix. Just saying, no, we will make this world.
The eye of Netflix.
Yeah.
Exactly. Bring him to me now. No. Do the show for me, and you will do it well. So, I mean, Netflix. I'm sure they've got programming. I mean, I'm in Canada, and they've been putting a bunch of money into doing Canadian content.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's it. If we can just harp on about Netflix for a second, I just think that, the way like AMC and Netflix, when you get sort of the companies making their own material, it almost
great.
feels like studios, the old studios that we were talking about.
Yeah.
Because anything that has any balls to it is made there.
Yeah.
I mean, even if they are following, a certain amount of, getting some stars behind it, and et cetera, they're still taking chances on things. Because every once in a while you'll get, like, Stranger Things that comes out of it.
Right.
I mean, you can see why people turn down the idea of doing it, but as soon as somebody gives it a chance, then the whole industry is like, oh yeah, we totally know that.
Yeah.
Make shows that are derivative of this. If people are always playing catch up to those who are kind of facing rejection for a long period of time.
Well, they helped out fellow Canadians, Trailer Park Boys, by bringing them on, and finally got to they got to experience fame through the United States through that, and that was pretty awesome. All right.
And it's funny because when they first did their short film, which was called Trailer Park Boys, I was living in Halifax, Nova Scotia, which is where they're all from, right? And I remember going to see this thing, Trailer Park Boys, at the film festival, and I went, "This is a great idea." But that was basically their proof of concept, where they had to put together it on their own to get somebody to kind of take their head out of their complacence. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that, but the proof of concept is that we need to see proof. It's not enough for you to give me the elevator pitch. It's not enough for me to be able to read it and understand it. I want to see for the tone, what you're doing, what kind of characters we can expect. I want to see it, and then it can go on from there. Because I think once you got things moving, you can branch out a bit. I mean, look at Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah,
it was an 8-episode fill-in for a show that had been canceled, and suddenly it goes like 7 seasons. And then there's Angel, and then there's just everything that is Joss Whedon after that, even though he'd already been working. They made the movie out of it, and that was sort of the proof of concept, but it wasn't enough to get picked up and be a viable show before that. And the first season of Buffy actually wasn't all that swell. And yet it made just enough fans to be able to get it through, and then they pushed and pushed and pushed, did some really super fun things. So, Netflix, it'd be awesome to be able to do the show for them, but it would be even more awesome to have an opportunity to develop original stuff.
So when you're coming up with ideas for other shows, are these like fan requested or things you wanted to do? Because it just seems odd that you do like Pride and Prejudice one night, Lord of the Rings, then Star Wars.
Well, it just comes down to what I love.
Yeah.
What I actually genuinely like. I'm sure that you guys can look back on your bookshelf there, and you can look at your own stuff at home and know that you love various things.
Yeah.
You can
Monty
love the never-ending
Python
stories. What's that?
Monty Python.
Yeah, exactly. Monty Python's a perfect example of a bunch of incredibly intelligent people coming together and writing about all diverse sort of backgrounds of everything from academia to bloody and fart jokes. But they're all, they're educated, hilarious guys. It's smart people's humor because it was made by smart people. And, whether or not people become egomaniacs or not. if it wasn't for handmade films, and George Harrison, they would never have made, even with the studios, would never have made, The Holy Grail or The Life of Brian. Ever. And if you've never seen the film Withnail and I, Withnail and I. Anyway, it's Bruce Robinson, written and directed by him, starring Richard E. Grant, Paul McGann, who played one of the doctors in Doctor Who.
Yeah.
I think it's so the guy that's forgive me here. He's the pilot of Queen Amidala's craft in the very first film. He's also in Amistad as the judge, the main judge, the sort of the good guy.
Yeah.
And if you ever watched the Mike Myers, Dana Carvey, what was that thing? The Wayne's World.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wayne's World 2, they put together this concert with this sort of old dried up kind of geezer kind of London type, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's him playing the character of Danny the drug dealer that was in the movie with Neil and I. It is brilliant. Right down to the fact that the guy who plays Chocolate Moose in Top Secret
Yeah.
plays a guy called Presuming Ed. So Presuming, right, but he's Presuming Ed. And he's just this guy, this sort of silent character that hangs around and all they do is get high. It's weird. It's awesome.
That's
If you get
great.
a chance to watch it. Yeah, and Uncle Vernon from Harry Potter is also, he plays Uncle Monty.
Nice.
If you get a chance to see it, it's fantastic. Made in 1986, and they would never make a film like that today because the whole plot of it is two complete down and out actors who basically are just getting drunk all the time, get the keys for a cabin, go away for the weekend, and then come back home. That's the plot of the story.
And it's amazing.
The rest of it's how it's actually told, with incredible actors and hilarious dialogue. Anyway, can't more highly recommend it.
All right. Can I give a request for your next show?
Sure.
I want to see a one-man Back to the Future.
Well, no, there's actually there's a bit of a story about that.
Okay.
I also requested to be able to do that, and
Okay.
I actually got a fairly positive initial reaction to it. But what it came down to, and what it basically comes down to now, is that when I did my Star Wars show, I mean, it was Lucasfilm, and Lucasfilm really did just work towards, George being at the top.
Yeah.
And, they could make decisions based upon what they assumed George would be fine with. It's in their licensing department. But you have like Paramount Pictures, I think, aren't they the ones, or was it Hollywood Studios that made Back to the Future? I don't remember.
I think it was Paramount.
Was it Paramount? Okay, so it was like it was actually the same thing with Indiana Jones, because Lucasfilm said, well, you might want to try doing Indiana Jones, and they were okay with it, and even Spielberg was apparently okay with it. But where the problem came is to Paramount, and I'm not saying that Paramount's a problem company. It's just not as simple as that.
Yeah.
And they're not. It's not like there's a licensing department dealing still specifically with Back to the Future or with
Right.
anything. It's actually
Okay.
quite difficult. And a lot of times they'll be releasing their own swag, and it's just from them. So it's all kind of done in-house. And yeah, it's just not an easy thing to sort of wade through. So what I could do is something which would be Back to the Future, a parody.
Okay.
But to me, I always feel, because there's sort of a parody clause. It's a bit of a gray area. When something is called a parody, you can only, I don't remember the percentages, and I'd be making them up, but let's say it was like 25% of your production could actually be made of the actual the actual or IP, I should say, the actual original intellectual property. The rest would have to be your own material that was sort of bridging all the other material. So it becomes truly a parody, not a true homage. Whereas One Man Star Wars or One Man Lord of the Rings, that's what it is.
Right.
It's just simply that. It's not what my original title for Batman, the Batman show, was One Man Dark Knight, a Dark Knight parody.
Okay.
Which I couldn't have made him a longer name. It's just One Man Batman. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And that's all it was meant to be. However, sort of to like legally get away with doing something rather than going and just getting the permission outright, which is what I would rather do.
Mhm.
Just go and get a yes or no. I was given let's say a midstream no, or not interested now, from the powers that be about me doing the One Man Back to the Future. And I would love to, because Marty! I would love to be able to do that. It would be a fantastic show and be so easy to do it. I do a one-man 1980s blank tape, and in the show, I've got like Ghostbusters, I've got Princess Bride,
Nice.
I've got I have
Labyrinth.
Top Gun. Pardon me.
Labyrinth.
I've got Labyrinth. I've Legend.
Nice.
I've got the Dark Crystal. I mean, there's so much of the 80s that's in it because it's the one-man 80s blank tape. And it pretty much ends. The last two bits I do in the show are Back to the Future, which is it's George McFly punching out Biff, right? And and then it's the duel between Count Rugen and is Count Rugen, I think, and Inigo Montoya.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think it's Count Rugen, Christopher Guest. Anyway,
Yeah.
so it's the final battle with them.
With the
Because
six-fingered
that, to me,
man.
that was just such a wonderful end to the story.
Yeah.
You know, if you've ever read the book, it's like the only way that film could be better is if you also have the book because it just enriches the other.
Yeah.
You would leave out Back to the Future 3 though.
I don't know.
I like that. It was good.
I've actually asked a lot of people, like, what was your favorite part of Back to the Future 2? And a lot of people can't really give me a very straight answer because it dates itself so much because it goes into an imagined future.
Mhm.
And when you now see the future that is imagining and you roll your eyes at how utterly ridiculous it is, it's like when you watch 2001: A Space Odyssey. I mean, it's not ridiculous, but it's just sort of like, that's so funny that that's the way you'd see things.
Mhm.
Not that it's wrong, but people would be still drinking Pepsi Freeze, you know, and
On a moon base.
on their hoverboards.
Microwaving in 3 seconds a pizza.
Yeah, wouldn't that be awesome? and yet, the actual truth is even stranger, that you can call up on a little mini helicopter and it could come to you that way.
Yeah.
Like, that seems equally ridiculous, and yet that's closer to the future that we actually are in. So when you look at the past and that they go to the past in Back to the Future 3, well, you know what Back to the Future, the past was not necessarily ZZ Top playing it, you know, at Hoedowns, but
Yeah.
their beard sure worked, you know.
Yeah. So you ever think about doing a Vegas show? You ever get in contact with Vegas and just making this a permanent location?
A residency.
Yeah. My manager actually of Right Angle Entertainment, they sort of have a couple theaters that they work out of all the time with shows, and it's something that we have talked about, but it's quite a move, you know, to go because you have to move your family and then you're there, you know. So you kind of become living in Vegas, and apparently if you do live outside of the tourist area, it's just a normal city.
Yeah.
Apparently it's quite a nice city.
Outside of the strip,
I've got friends that work for Cirque du Soleil, and they've been down there for 15 years, and they love it because they get paid well.
Mhm.
The housing was cheap, comparatively speaking, and I think it's kind of gone up and down. But they can live fairly cheaply, and they don't go other than going downtown to work. Ever spend any money at the casino because they couldn't stand them.
Would you have
If
the
you're not-
energy to do this 4 times a night, 5 nights in a row?
No, I'd still have to do it like once a night, and then once a night, and then do it like twice on Saturday or something, or
Okay.
Sunday matinee. Yeah, I mean that would definitely kill you.
Yeah.
If I was doing say like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars, which I'm not allowed to do with my licenses with them, I can't actually do them at the same time, which
Okay.
sucks because it would be nice to be able to do Lord of the Rings, matinee, and then Star Wars in the evening. But you just can't use the same marquee. You can't use any of the same promotional material,
Oh, wow.
etc. Yeah. So I'm kind of stymied by that. But yeah, it'd be amazing to go do it because it's sort of where things either go to perk up or to die.
Well, I think you should start at Branson, Missouri. Have a theater there for a bit just to practice, and then head to Vegas.
If I did, I know if my mom came down to see me do the show, she'd only want to go see Don Williams. She wouldn't.
Yeah.
I'm like, great.
That's great.
Come
Yeah.
all the way down to Branson, I only want to do see Don Williams. Fine. Yeah, and
Competing with Yakov Smirnov.
Shoji Tabuchi.
It's weird when you get places that are like just entertainment hubs, and that's all they really are. Because I mean, no one lives there year round. Isn't that true?
Yeah, it's more touristy than anything, and then even the entertainers leave Branson after the entertainment season.
Entertainment's so funny. You can actually have like an encampment or a festival, like I was telling you about the Fringe festivals. They go on in these cities, and if you go to the city that you performed in, like any other time of the year, there's no evidence of these festivals, none, and yet they become these little cities within cities.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where it has its own like geography. It's got its little sort of places where you don't go eat over there because that's where the toilets are. You know, and you make sure you eat over there because that's where all the cool people are doing breakdancing and stuff like that. You know, it's like they're the little tiny communities within these cities.
What I liked about the Edinburgh Festival is like my high school drama department got nominated to go there to perform.
Yeah.
So we raised a bunch of money and got there. But like every day there were like street performers out and about, plus the plays, plus music, plus comedy and everything. It was just an amazing experience that I think everybody should experience something like that. And I'm sure that's other French festivals around the world too. But it was so much fun.
Quite as big as that, and I was there. I was just there this year, so I was there like in August.
Nice,
doing the show, and it's 3,800 shows.
Yeah,
competing with each other over the course of the month, and I don't mean like they're competing like with swords, but I mean they are.
Yeah.
And you could see a show at any single time of the day, 24 hours a day, and that there were people that were doing the free Fringe where they do a show for free. And they just pass the hat at the end, and that's the only money that they make. And sometimes they make more money than the people that have got the kick butt A+ theaters, because people go, it's nothing. I'll drop in £5, which is $10 American, and then you multiply that by 150 people, and then you do like 3 shows in a row. You're laughing.
Yep, it's nice.
Awesome. So how you ever get those nights where you're just not feeling the energy?
Yeah. I think so, but I mean that's part of just performing too.
Once you get out there, you get the adrenaline back. It is a very high energy show. Yours is.
I can't imagine not having the energy. If anything, I think I try to sort of set the place, like sort of start a fire. Like people have to keep up with me, and I can't imagine why a person who bought a ticket, made the journey, did the parking, argued with the kids and the family to eventually have their butts down there made sure all the kids went to the bathroom before the show begins, to sit there and go like, I'm not going to laugh. It's like, well, I'm sorry, that sucks. Usually people are truly game, and when those lights go down, this is what we're here for.
Awesome.
So I try to bring it no matter what, and I've only ever had to cancel 2 shows in the 18 years I've been doing the show.
Sickness?
And in both cases, yeah. I was so sick. I mean, so sick that I was able to get to the doctor. It was between the matinee and the evening show. And it was in New York. And the doctor said, if you do the show, you understand you have the risk of having a heart attack because your blood pressure was up, and I had a fever. And he said, with no reservation, you should not be doing the show. Do not do the show. And I told that to the producers, and they were really angry, and there was nothing that I could do, but I had to protect, there was no understudy. Never been an understudy to do my show.
Oh, wow.
Tom? Huh?
I don't have that. Last night I was watching your clips on YouTube, and I just got so tired I went to bed by watching you have that much energy. It drained me. That's why I keep asking about it.
Are you guys going to come see the show tonight then?
We have another show at 4:00 to do. What it says, is it a hard 7:30 when it starts?
Yeah, it's a hard 7:30, but I can put you guys put your names on the door. So
okay,
just so you know.
All right.
It wouldn't cost. I mean, it's 4 tickets. Is that right?
I wouldn't be able to go.
Okay.
I would be able to go. Yeah.
Okay.
So 3.
3 tickets?
Sure. Yeah, I'll confirm about that, of course.
Okay, definitely.
I mean, you should see it. It's sort of like The Matrix. It's kind of hard to explain it until you see it. And if you just see clips of it, I just don't think you're getting it.
No. I'm going to sleep like a baby after this show.
I would love to see the show.
If anything, I might be coming to Appleton to see it on the 25th.
Well, or you guys can come see it in Appleton if you like. It's all good. You just let me know which it is that works better, because there's no night that I get to take off.
Yeah.
And it's a funny thing, and you guys can probably appreciate this because you guys, your journalists, entertainers, in addition to having, your Clark Kent jobs as well, right?
Yeah.
So I go to work against the grain of humanity. When people are heading home, I'm heading to work. And when people are commuting somewhere, to go do a job in a place they don't necessarily want to do, working for a company that they don't really feel much about, I'm also commuting, but it's not necessarily against the grain of humanity, but I do stick out on the airplane. If I actually get into a conversation with somebody about what I do, it's usually a conversation killer because people don't know really how to they don't know how to react. And it's true. How many people have jobs like this? Really, no matter what ever happens, and I truly mean this, no matter what happens in my future, you can't help but look back at a period of time and just sort of say, I've been so fortunate to have this. And, there's no way to recreate it. In fact, trying to chase that sort of lightning, hoping to catch it again, is almost a futile effort. And only if you choose something new. And in a way, doing the Star Wars show this way, even though we all did it when we were kids, playing our favorite stories, because I don't use any costumes or sets or props. It's just like a poor man's version of Star Wars, on stage. Yeah, even though it's sort of, it seems like it might have been done before. It never was. It was never done before. And now I do it. And now a lot of people actually do.
I've seen the parody videos of people online too doing what you do.
Oh yes, well,
scrolling down.
Sure, yeah. Well, there's people that
they don't have the voices down. No one can do the R2 voice like you.
Well, that's good. I've always thought that it's great that people can be awesome.
Yeah.
even if they're trying to be jerks, sometimes they're being awesome as well. They're putting themselves out there. Isn't that what it's all about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the fun thing with YouTube is, like, if they do something like that, like trying to make fun of you or whatever their motive is, it puts your video in the list of things to watch as well. And so it kind of benefits you in a way as to people, wow, this guy's amazing. And they go with that.
Well, I never actually thought that, I never thought I was going to gain any real fans or respect from doing a show like this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is basically the equivalent of opening your legs and saying, kick me as hard as you want. Like, it's really, I'm right there, guys. I'm right there. But I'm not going to cry for myself, and nobody should.
I'm going to request that one of your fans put the CGI lightsabers when you're actually doing the lightsaber duels without it. Just add that in there like the Star Wars kid.
That would be awesome. Well, it's funny because you mentioned the Star Wars kid. The first time I got a really decent TV hit was WGN in Chicago, and they were going to have me do my show live. And what they didn't tell me is that they were going to do a split screen and have, off of this new thing called YouTube, they were going to show the Star Wars kid beside me so they could kind of silently make fun of me. But the guys were such Luddites, they couldn't get it to load up on me. So, in fact, it was only just me doing it by myself. And I felt so happy that I dodged that bullet, that comparative bullet, because it's like you took a chance, you brought me there, and sometimes people want to ambush you. It's just a thing that happens. And I don't think people do it as much as they used to, because there was sort of that shock jock era when I first started doing the show. Every radio show you went on to, it was just a bunch of miserable, sarcastic people that didn't actually want to talk about anything. They wanted to just sort of like drive you into the dirt or drive other things into the dirt. And believe it or not, it wasn't until I went to Australia and started doing radio, I started to drop my shoulders again. I'm like, oh, wait a second. I'm not going to be ripped apart.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are actually nice people. Oh, okay, crazy. And it's taken a while, but back now in the States, you got people that are on the radio, and once again, they're allowed to be nice people who are actually interested in things, who may want to talk to you about something. I'm like, oh, great.
I find talking to guests that a lot of them are hesitant that I'm just getting them on the show to rip them. There's a lot of, I run in that. It's like, no, the better you do, the better we do, the better we do, Yeah. That's the way we run it, so.
I mean, if nobody's ever watched Eric Andre, and
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
like if you get people that suddenly got booked to do the Eric Andre show or didn't know what they were getting into, I mean, I that to me is almost like. It's almost like mother's milk because I think I've had nightmares about things going that poorly, or just sort of like sitting on a chair where they've got like rotten fish underneath where you're sitting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that sort of thing's taken to the ultimate extreme of, absurdity. But yeah, it's just nice to know that people are allowed to love things again.
Yeah.
And there's no need to destroy the things you also love or to isolate the people that are coming onto your show because you need to keep your ratings up or something.
Yeah. All right. Well, how much time you got? You got some time for some unanswered Star Wars questions? Or you got to get rolling?
Unanswered Star Wars questions.
Questions that you've seen the movie enough, maybe you can answer for me.
Okay.
Here's an example. What is the point of...
Like theories? Are you talking about? Like, what are my theories of?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'll just throw a question out there and you'll see where I'm going. What is the point of Stormtrooper armor? Since every blast goes through it anyway.
Well, what's the point of Stormtrooper armor? Is it... I guess I could sort of intellectualize and say that it was sort of like dehumanizing, your enemy.
Cover up that they're clones, maybe?
Yeah, and to be able to have a command structure that could still believe in the Empire and its dogma and send legions of faceless drones, essentially, to go off to their death. Because as soon as they get off of any, transport, it's just Saving Private Ryan, like in the first couple of seconds. You just got a bunch of guys who are dead.
Nobody likes a naked stormtrooper.
And, I mean, from what I've heard, is that there's obviously enhancements that are there. Like you get like in a regular, soldier today, they've got all the sort of enhancements that you would use for like night vision and whatnot and communication.
Yeah.
So other than making them look cool, I think from a practical standpoint, you could get the same actors or stand-ins to wear the same.
You're
to
saying
be the stormtroopers over and over and over and over again. So it's just a clever way of dealing with the fact that you didn't have a lot of money. And if you're going to make a show that's going to appeal to families at all, when you saw the rebels getting killed, you really felt for them because you're seeing a face and then you're seeing the shock as they get killed. And if you're seeing these faceless things get shot, you really are understanding what the Empire is, that it's a heartless, faceless, evil thing that's sort of moving against all regular people, rebellious people, humans. I think because it didn't give it a face other than like in their command structure, we could truly hate the commanders because they just didn't care. They'd blow up Alderaan,
Wow.
And you just think, oh wow, this person's going to go have coffee after this or whatever,
That is a really well thought out, deep answer. I just thought, okay.
Well, I've thought about that.
You've thought about that too?
Well, it could be maybe the armor is effective at range. Maybe the armor is better than still no armor. Maybe that shot won't kill you, whereas it would kill you without. I don't know.
Okay.
There's always a trade-off in if you envision like technology changing over time. Maybe when the armor was brand new, the current blasters would do nothing, but now blasters are so much better, they're going right through the old armor. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why doesn't anybody recognize R2 and C-3PO?
Well, I guess because once again you sort of have these homogenous droids.
They could see 20 of them down the street a day?
Presumably. I mean, they
just came off a conveyor belt?
You have your mech droids. You've got your protocol droids. They're all over the place.
They're basically a walking iPhone?
Yeah, and I mean, when you see the protocol droids, there's ones that have had different voices, but you got to wonder if it's not more like your Siri voice that you can have a couple of standardized voices.
My Android is John Cleese.
Yeah, or whatever, right? Like I think, they put an actor's doing the voice, but I mean, if they're that sort of unspecial because they are robots, they're droids. I mean, I think we've thought more about the droids because we're fans and we're watching the story. But I mean, if people just have toasters, and if that's all it is, you actually are a tool. Mm-hmm. And in the case of Han Solo, he just finds C-3PO to be completely annoying. Wouldn't he be happier if he was just gone?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he'd sort of be,
Yeah.
I wish you
How
could
come there
have
was
the guy, I
no
wish you could have him back.
upgrade of the droids? Because they've been around for presumably 60 years, and we can't keep an iPhone for more than 1 year here. Don't you think there would have been some sort of upgraded droid that these things would be?
Well, but then that also
Keep together?
implies that there's a company that's making them. We have like the Universal Apple company that's sort of providing these things. They even went and talked about that in The Last Jedi, where you've got people that make weapons, but I mean they're weapons makers to sell to governments to then sell to both the Empire and to into sort of the rebels, and they don't really care. So they're just manufacturers of technology, and it's weird. It almost feels like it's kind of an analog world that they have, because it seems like they were able to sort of just plug and play things. Chewbacca, who doesn't exactly have fine dexterity, is able to put 3PO back together by just plonking his head back on the thing and twisting it.
Quarter turn.
I'm like, oh, that's pretty amazing. I mean, it's almost like they've got a self-destruct mechanism that if they get shot, they eject all their parts so that they could almost be reused again. Because if 3PO's head was on a different protocol droid, who would care? It's like it's not like
Well, they've been trying to escape all this time too, so maybe they were trying to update them and upgrade them, but they've been trying to hide from the go on their own for the longest time, and so probably they just nope, I'm okay with this body right now.
Maybe the Imperial Age was a dark age of very little advancement.
Okay.
It's possible. I mean, yeah. I mean, if you have people sort of scrounging around like the junk dealers and just trying to get by with their best, you have Anakin who finds his freedom through putting together a jalopy of a pod racer. He's not taking the brand new, one that you can buy off
The new
off
T16.
the lot.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Here's quite a thing. Yeah, no. Instead, he's just putting together something with what he has, and that to me is sort of what a Jedi even making their own lightsaber. I mean, that's them. That's their power. Is their power to be able to have ingenuity and build their power with their own self, their own resources.
At the end of the original trilogy, why doesn't Chewbacca get a medal and everybody else does?
Well, I actually make a joke of it in my show.
Oh, do you? Okay.
I do. I remember being a kid, and I remember trying to think. Well, maybe they gave him some more things on his bandolier.
A biscuit.
Maybe he.
A treat
wrapped in cheese.
Yeah, but I mean, and it was there. I mean, but what would Chewbacca need? And I mean, since the stories have sort of outlined the fact that he's like 500 years old, who gives a crap about a medal? What's he gonna do with it? Oh, this is great, awesome. I'll put it with my sheep medal. What are you gonna do with it? You gonna sell it? And I always wondered, where did they have like a forge or like a jewelry shop there on on Yavin? Where did they have these spare medals? Get the medals. I guess we did something awesome. We got that thing of medals. Yeah, just give them those ones. Yeah,
the shoebox.
The Latinum ones. Those are fine. They're fine. They won't care. Just give them those ones.
We only got 5. There's 6 people.
We got nothing for the Wookiee. He doesn't care. Just give him another biscuit, all right? He doesn't care. Ask him.
He looks hungry.
I don't know what he says. Yeah, give him something to eat. He just wants to go.
And speaking of the Wookiee, do you make fun of the Christmas special at all in your show?
Yes.
Oh, I knew that was coming.
Life Day's coming up, folks.
Yeah, something, believe it or not, I really desperately want to do the 1970 Christmas special. The only
I would love that.
problem is this: it would be re-educating or educating for the first time about something that happened that they have, I think, not had to actively try to forget because it was so poor and unmemorable that it was easy to just sort of dismiss it, to forget it. It's not like Wilford Brimley that sort of returned to Ewok land or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, those are just not all that great. This was truly evidence of drug use in the 70s.
Yes.
And trying to desperately, I guess, cash in on it, but I don't know where the cash was coming from. It was beyond ridiculous. So
I've not made it through all the way yet.
I have.
I figured we should watch it for Movies with Mark and review it. I have a copy.
I had never seen it. Tom made me go and watch it. I didn't even know
Get about
about
40
it.
minutes in, and
Yeah,
it's a long one.
And then
Yeah,
it feels like Clockwork Orange, where you get your eyes.
Yeah.
It's so bad I can't stop watching.
I think they were under a contract, right? With that, like they or something like that. There was some sort of contract issue where it was in
Mark Hamill had
the
to
bottom
appear.
line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know something? I think it was all pretty much a whirlwind for them too. I mean, keep in mind that, and it's hard for us to really, I think, empathize with it. But you would have had an idea of what your career was going to be,
Yeah.
right? What your life was going to be. But suddenly, Star Wars happened to you. You had a job, and suddenly that job has you and will define you forever. Like, I don't know if it feels like a golden bear trap or what it is, but these guys didn't know they were making the 1978 Christmas special. They were just showing up.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like people that today, when they make movies, they do their best performance they possibly can, but they have no idea or control of how it's going to look in the end.
Right.
At all. You have a blue screen behind you, green screen behind you,
Yeah.
and you just hope that you're not going to be in the worst film ever made. You know, you're just doing the job. So,
Like,
yeah, I mean,
you didn't know as a kid in Canada that in, 20 years or so, you're going to be doing the Off the Rails with Tom and Mark talking about your one-man Star Wars play. Like, you didn't envision that back then, and now it's happened, and it's can only go up from here.
Well, he's more Alec Guinness and we're Star Wars.
Yeah.
And he's like,
I just kind of feel like under what circumstances, guys, would we have to be able to talk other than loving Star Wars? But the truth is that we can talk to anybody who shares common interests to us. We just don't necessarily have it running live with an actual fan base of any sort of what we might be doing. And that's crazy. So you can't plan it out. But, if you kind of sound a little bit, ridiculous and simplistic, but if you do follow your heart, what you love, you will find your way. And oftentimes find your way to other people that are more like-minded to you than your family. You don't have to explain certain things. People just get it.
Yeah. All right, I got one more question for you.
Okay.
Obi-Wan hiding as old Ben Kenobi, living on the home planet of Darth Vader, protecting Luke. How is that hiding when he changed his name from Obi-Wan to Kenobi to old Ben Kenobi, and nobody found him?
Nobody pieced that together. Well, I mean, we're coming from an era of, no one being able to recognize Clark Kent when he has a pair of glasses on.
Okay.
I guess. I actually think that for Anakin, and if Anakin's truly gone, then his connection is, I mean, you can't truly drive away that thing that's inside of you. There's the imbalance, that's created when you join, if you are suddenly the dark side. There's still that kernel of the light side that's there. So if he goes back and then he suddenly begins to confront all the things that are attached there, his mom, his childhood, the time he spent with Watto, him killing the Sand People, which was actually quite a significant movement towards him joining the dark side or being able to sort of bring the dark side in. And then his attachment to Padme. I mean, when you have the Star Destroyer that Vader's actually on, and the droids have jettisoned the escape hatch and have gone down to Tatooine, I'm pretty sure Vader could look down on the screen and go, "Oh yeah, it's Tatooine. Shh. No, I'm not going down there."
This is awkward.
Down a squad to go and get them. Sends down a squad to go to get them, and he's on to other bigger and better things, or just trying to forget about it.
So that would have been the best place to hide?
I don't know, but it clearly wasn't the best place to hide. But there seems to be something about Tatooine that I've never read anything about it, but I had a theory, which I always kind of wished it could be in some ways popularized or whatever. But it's that I always thought it would be better if Anakin was actually kind of like a cloned version of, say, the Emperor. That when like originally when they were sort of meeting the Kaminoans to make the clone army, you had Jango Fett who made Boba, like who actually unfolded at a regular growth rate, and then he could actually teach. Well, imagine if you had a version of yourself, so like the Emperor makes a clone version of himself, or maybe something that at least has his midichlorian kind of content, right? Like really high midichlorian content. If we're going to go into that thing, because it did delve into science and genetics.
Yeah.
But then let's say you take that little egg, and then you take it to a place that's not controlled by the Empire or the Republic. You go to a gangster planet, and you go to Zorba the Hutt, and she has some slaves, and you find one of them, and you put that little clone inside the belly and in the system of Shmi Skywalker, or Shmi, right? Then she gives birth to magically this sort of Jesus character, just for some reason she didn't have any memory of becoming impregnated. She just became impregnated, and she also it's also a great way to keep in a sort of without actually looking at it direct, that if your investment, your clone that's sitting there, on Tatooine, on a gangster planet, it's going to grow up to be highly functional, and that it's going to have Force qualities, right? And also has a little sort of chip inside of you that if it tries to leave the planet of its own free will, it's gone. Then your investment's still saved. Until later, through natural means, through your own movements, you eventually get some Jedi that show up there on the planet through an incredible amount of luck, but show up on the planet and then discover your investment, and then they naturally bring it back to you while you're trying to infiltrate the Republic system and then switch it over into becoming an empire, and then you can have complete free reign to have influence over your investment until you decide to reveal yourself. Reveal yourself fully as who you are and take over as the Iron Fist. But what it does for the story is that you have, in the end, Anakin chooses to return as a Jedi by killing his father because he can't kill his son. So you have father's son, right? And that you have Luke to Anakin, Anakin to his dad. And what Vader would never realize, Anakin would never realize if he was never able to reveal this truth, is that he had no family, right? He lost all of his family. This is Anakin. But by choosing to be a father, that family is in fact what solves the problems that are currently, keeping down the galaxy. He gets rid of the Emperor by choosing to be a father, returning to be a Jedi for only a small moment until he does die. And Luke found his family. He found Leia, his literal family, and he found Han and Chewbacca and everybody else is actually like his family. And it's about family and the strength of it actually allowing for good things to happen in the universe.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That is why Obi-Wan did not change his last name.
That's right. Well, it could have been Jones. Obi-Wan Jones. Like,
Well, they didn't change Luke's
I
last
think-
name, so clearly it's not that big of an issue.
The best place to do illegal things is in front of a police station. Because they're not going to expect it. So he can hide in plain sight in the land of Darth Vader because least expecting that he's going to be there.
They'd never put him on. They'd never give him to my aunt and uncle,
Yeah.
to raise.
You gotta wonder if Luke would have been so much of a whiner had he stayed with his real family.
He did need a little discipline, I think.
Anyways, yeah, I don't know why he didn't change his name, but I think it was pretty flimsy, except that they were in a total backwoods.
Okay.
That's my theory.
All right. Anything else, you guys? Or you want to wrap it up? Let them get going?
Yeah.
I think we've been going over.
Yeah,
an hour
thanks for
here,
giving
so.
us your time. This has been awesome.
Definitely, yeah.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much. And yeah, we will take you up on that offer. We'll come see you tonight.
Are you two or you three?
Just you two. I don't think I can make it tonight, but I'm definitely going to try. I'm going to make it up to Appleton. I'm doing it November 25th.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and I will confirm, but I will put two tickets on the door.
Okay. Just put it on Off the Rails or whatever. Thank you very much.
Yep. Right on.
All right. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you. That was Charlie Ross, One Man Star Wars. And
May the force be with you.
may the force be with you. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, see you guys.
See ya.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. That that was it. So let's
Should we just do our
wrap it
quick
up.
reads?
Yeah, let's do some
All right.
reads, wrap it up, and
Hold on.
we'll get ready.
We're just going to close off the show real quick and
Yeah.
say we are Off the Rails with Tom and Mark, and you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, on our website. The key phrase to look up is Off the Rails TM. If you want to email us, if you know someone who might want to be a guest, or you might want to be a guest, or maybe you're just bored and you want to talk to Tom, offtherailstm@gmail.com. You can email in questions and we'll read them on the air at asktomanything414@gmail.com. This podcast is available on SoundCloud, YouTube, Stitcher, iTunes, wherever you like to go for your podcasts. We are there. See our website for more details.
And thanks, Nate, for coming in and
Yeah.
co-hosting with us again. Where are we going to find you?
You can find me at Comic Nate Ford on Facebook and Twitter, or THD Comedy on Facebook, or Instagram, Twitter, all that sort of jazz. And you can see me next Saturday, November 10th, at Sobo's Tap in Greenfield, Wisconsin.
All right.
Sobo, S-O-B-O-S.
And be sure to keep using our Amazon link to buy stuff. Go on our Patreon site. We're getting that up and going. Go listen, get your special footage, get your bumper stickers. I've been up the shirt company's ass lately, and they finally told me that they're actually in the middle of moving from one location to another location, so I'm on the back burner with them, but we're getting shirts.
Yeah.
I think I was up their ass so much that they're like, we gotta move, dude. We gotta move. Uncle Tom's been
We're shutting this down.
hounding me for shirts
Or
so
just
much.
donate. Just
Just
donate
donate.
out of kindness, so that I mean, I'm not saying that this is not a wonderful setting or whatnot, but just maybe it'll upgrade everything for Off the Rails with Tom and Mark to provide you guys with a fantastic show with no hiccups. So just put money in the bank.
Yes, I have a very expensive camera on our wish list.
Camera number 4.
Camera number 4. So, all right. Thank you very much, Universe. And remember, we're not good enough.